many people together to talk about these really important things. So we are thrilled to have you here as we gather under a shared commitment to building a more inclusive and equitable music industry. This event was organized by our DREAM Committee, which stands for Diversity Reimagined by Engaging All Music Makers. This committee, led by our incredible chair, Jeannie Tanner, celebrity status, is dedicated to fostering diversity, equity, and inclusion in all that we do. Earlier this fall, the Recording Academy released its 2024 membership report, which revealed that the Academy has exceeded its ambitious 2025 goal of adding 2,500 female identifying voting members. The impact of this initiative and many others has been far-reaching. As of now, 66% of the Academy's voting body has joined since 2019, representing a significant cultural shift within the music industry. Since 2019, the Academy has seen a 65% growth in voting members who identify as people of color, including a remarkable 90% increase in Black or African American voters, 43% increase in Hispanic or Latinx, and 100% increase in Asian and Pacific Islander representation. It's a big deal. The new voting body also spans over 13 creative disciplines, from songwriters and composers to engineers and conductors, showcasing the full spectrum of talent that makes up our industry across 22 unique genres. Whew. All right, that was a lot. So tonight is all about collaboration, it's about connection. It's a fantastic opportunity to meet folks in the creative community here in Chicago and to learn from some folks that have been doing this for a long time. So I'd like to extend a huge thank you to our partners, Women in Music, Lily, and I'll pass it on to our chapter president, the amazing Susan Vels.
Hello, hello. So good evening. I'm going to say good evening. Thank you. Okay, I'm Susan Vels. I am the chapter president for the Chicago Midwest chapter, and I'm a violinist and a composer, and I've been a long-time member of Poi Dog Pondering, the band. I love that this many people came out. I feel a really good energy in the room. It just feels really positive and open. So thank you for coming out in the rain, and welcome to you, and also welcome to everybody who's online. Welcome. I can't believe it's the end of the year, and as we look back, we can celebrate like incredible accomplishments we have, and two of them, we had an event with Jeff Tweedy and Cheryl Powalski up close and personal. They were sitting on stage at a magic club in a tornado, just talking about stuff, and it was, and another one that we did, Add 2 was the moderator, and it was a mental health panel hearing clinic featuring Lupe Fiasco, Common, Chris Classic, the Obama Foundation, it was both of those evenings were incredibly like inviting and super informative, and I felt all of us felt really connected through our shared love of music and living this music life. Now it's time to recognize the DREAM, which stands for Diversity, Recognized, Reimagined. Engaging all music makers. Thank you, Jeannie. So you guys work behind the scenes all year round, and tonight is because of all your efforts, and we all thank you so much. And so the committee members, could you raise your hands, please? Yeah.
The only ones brave enough to sit in the front row. Dun dun.
I mean, it's the direct result of your efforts to listen, to support, to amplify, and include all voices in the music creative community. So thank you so much. Okay, now I am honored to introduce a truly inspired and inspiring artist, Ugochi Nwagwugu. And as a poet, a singer, a songwriter, a playwright, educator, and an activist, her words have a really unique way of capturing the heart of community. She's going to lead us tonight as the moderator. for this very important conversation. And to set the tone, she is going to perform a poem she's written especially for this evening. So, thank you all for being here tonight and for your commitment to making the music industry a space of belonging for all of us. Now let's enjoy a super inspired evening and welcome Ugochi to the stage.
When it comes to opportunity, there needs to be more cultural unity within our community. When Chi City is called together to paint a family portrait, we are left out of the picture. Nobody follows through when it comes to the darker hue. But I have a few questions for all of you. What hue is human? What color is kindness? What gender is genuine? What language is love? When the invitation goes out to cut up the provisional pie, many will eat, others will be denied. When gatekeepers open the door to inclusion, is it just an illusion? Who is in the room? Who is being groomed? Who has a seat at the table? Who is on the plate being consumed? It's time to create a paradigm where every neighborhood gets to dine, to be seen, to be heard, assisted in realizing the American dream. The problem is primordial as parchment. Although it did not begin with you or I, you and I can ensure these outdated ways die. When we continue to birth ideas born from abuse and neglect, we resurrect the dead, remain haunted by ghosts of a twisted past. Let us bury those microaggressions once and for all, so that in this day and time, when Chi City is called together to paint a family portrait, there will be no colors in need. No colors will bleed. All colors and creeds will be represented. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is so nice to see you all and to feel your energy. Now it is time to enter into our discussion on empowerment through creativity. I'm just going to have a seat here if that's okay. And it's an honor to introduce our esteemed speakers tonight, each of whom brings a wealth of lived experience and insight into our guiding principle for the evening, which is to educate and uplift the music community through a conversation on industry and inclusivity. So, first, let's welcome Mike Oquendo. Let's clap it up for Mike. Mike is a renowned host and producer of comedy, theater, and music who brings humor and heart to audiences. You're welcome. I'm not done with your intro. Across Chicago and beyond. His work has been celebrated on Telemundo, Univision, TBS's Just for Laughs Festival, and many more. As a native Chicagoan and proud Puerto Rican, Mike has a great love for his city and its people. He notably hosted the city's first Latino comedy room, which provided a platform for dozens of Latino comedians. And Mike's philosophy is that the entrepreneurship and community engagement can live side by side to grow healthy neighborhoods and partnerships that are rich in diversity and equity. So please join me again in welcoming Mike Oquendo to the stage. No, my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and our next voice is someone who brings a special energy and expertise to the music industry, a voice and a champion for artists and the music community at large. Lily Shallow. Lily is a highly respected music supervisor and producer with over a decade in the business. Her work reflects a deep commitment to independent artists and college radio stations, keeping those vital connections alive and thriving in our musical ecosystem. Over the years, her work has not only helped agency and brand partners achieve award-winning campaigns, but it has also empowered publishers to expand their reach and grow their catalogs. So Lily also shines as the chapter chair for the Chicago chapter for Women in Music. And she leads their local work to educate, empower, and advance women in the music industry. So please keep on clapping it up. Let's give a warm welcome to Lily. And last, but definitely not the least, last up, we have someone who needs no introduction in Chicago, but we'll give her one anyway. Darlene Jackson, AKA Lady DJ, is hailed as Chicago's house music queen. How many love house music? How many people love it? Yeah. And that was by Chicago Magazine. She has toured internationally for over 2 decades. This producer, remixer, mix show DJ, and record label owner is well known for her charismatic sets of house music, techno, and disco. And her appearances at festivals like SXSW, South by Southwest, that's a T on that, Lollapalooza, Burning Man, ARC, and Chosen Few, the Chosen Few. And for fan-filled influencer, charity, major brands, and celebrity events such as TEDx, the Chicago Bulls, and NASCAR, you better, have solidified her trailblazing career. A Chicago chapter governor for the Recording Academy. Let's clap it up for that. Lady D is a renowned subject in print, television, radio podcasts, and on multiple music documentary films and books. Just keep clapping it up for Lady D. She can't get enough clap. All right. Okay, so, sorry. We're going to start the conversation now because we have given our very esteemed panelists a very warm welcome. So the first question that I would like everyone to answer is, there a story of your name? Is there a story behind your name? And how has it become a part of your identity? And Mike, you can start us off with that answer.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the intro,
pleasure.
and thank you all for being here tonight. Mikey O is the name of my company, The Mikey O Show. Mikey O, Miguelito in Spanish. And the way the name was formally established, this is a hobby that turned into a business very quickly. Looking into the audiences in the comedy rooms 20, 25 years ago, there wasn't me in the audience. There was a couple of me's on the stage, and so I decided to go ahead and work in reverse and build the audience and then let the comedians have a platform. So what happens when you do your first show on your own and 40 people show up, but 6 months later 1,000 people show up, then you've got a lot of money and you have no background in accounting. Zero. And by a lot of money, I'm not talking about a ton of money, but I was coming home with $1,500 or $1,800, and then one day I said to my neighbor, Maria Casanova, I think I better open a bank account. And she's like, yeah. I said, well, I'm concerned about depositing this money. I don't really have a legitimized, way to deposit it. And she says, well, you got to go to the bank, you got to get articles, so, got to do all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. What am I going to call the company? And she looks to the right, and up until 3 years ago, the only logo for my company, you can still find it online, was a picture of me when I was 5. Why? Because I said to her, what am I going to call the company? She literally points to a picture in the living room and says, what did they call you in that picture? Mikey O. That's the name of the company. And that's what happened. That was the birth of the Mikey O Show.
Wow.
That's it, yeah. So thank you.
Can I ask you, what does Oquendo mean?
Oquendo. Well, Oquendo is a last name of a coffee family in Spain, Sevilla, España. And Oquendo, the most of the Oquendos I'm from Puerto Rico, but most of the Oquendos will tell you that they're from a rich coffee family. All of them but me, so.
Oh, wow, amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Lily,
That's great.
please
yeah.
tell us the story behind your name.
Sure. So my name is Lily Shallow. It was given to me by my parents. And I've really grown to like it. I think as a woman, entering into the industry and making a name for yourself, growing up it was always, you will get married one day, and you will take that last name. And I think at the age of 28 years old now, I am very much attached to my name, and I know it's not as crazy now, but with the background, born in Philly, grew up in Memphis, there's definitely some antiquated ideas around femininity and womanhood and what's expected of us. But all that to say, my name is my name at this point in my life, and I can't ever envision myself being Lily something else. I think I will always be Lily Shallow. So that's the story of my name. Lily, I know in Latin, is beauty, purity, innocence, and again, as a woman, there's a lot to unpack with purity culture and what we expect of women. And so that's also another part of my name and identity that I think I'm continuing to explore and claim and just kind of make my own. But yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. And Lady DJ, Darlene Jackson.
Darlene, it means dearly loved. And, my middle name is Dion, and I grew up being called Dion, and I was named after Dionne Warwick. At least my sisters really loved her at the time, and I come from a family of 6, and they're much older than I am, and I was like 17 years younger than the oldest one, 11 years younger than the last one that came, and then, the bonus baby. So Darlene Jackson, and then people know me as Lady D, and in dance music, electronic dance music is pretty male dominated still to this day, but when I started in the mid-90s, it was still very much so, and trying to come up with a name that I thought was suitable, and the D obviously is for Darlene, but I thought the lady is for respect. So that's it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you were making quite a statement back then. So as an artist, Lady D, how have you been able to use your music to navigate hurdles? How have you used your creativity to navigate hurdles?
Well, you do have to be creative, I think, especially if you want to go into places where people are not always welcoming. I think that there are some barriers, right? I was, I think 25 or so when I really started and launched my career, so that's not young, but it was young enough at the time. But it did, it was a little bit of like, oh, what are you doing? And so after about 2 years of playing, a few other women approached me and said that they had had an idea to start a women's DJ collective. And, I was all about girl power, so I was like, yeah, I'm down. I would be interested for sure. What happened was when we joined forces creatively, we were able to cause waves. And so that collaboration, that created something that was bigger than all of us, because what it did was it increased our visibility fourfold, right? So what you can do on your own, you can, multiply when you join with others, when you collaborate. And so we were able to launch our brand, Super Jane, and take that brand across the world. So, with national tours and all, it made us all more internationally visible as well. It just put a new spin on things for people. So it was novel at the time, and some people considered us America's first all-women DJ collective. Not necessarily true, but what I can say is that we were the first to gain that type of national exposure. And so that really changed the game. It inspired a lot of people that came after us, not only women that came after us. Of course, that was a natural after fact, but even young, other genders and people that saw what we could do together. And I think it made it also look like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's okay. I don't mind that sort of inspiration either. Yeah, bring it.
Right. So the power of collaboration was really heightened with your groups, and that Super Jane, that's such a cool name.
Yeah, I didn't come up with that, but can't take credit
Very
for that.
nice.
But I did feel like the contribution was, as a force together, more people took us seriously. Yeah.
Thank you. So I would like it if all of you could share a story about an experience where you learned how to be a better ally in your everyday life. And I guess we can start with you, Mikey O.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say that somebody much smarter than me said that diversity and inclusion, right? Diversity is being invited to the party, and inclusion is being asked to dance. And so we're finally being asked to dance in our community. I've been sitting in that corner for a long time, ice with a nice, a drink that's melting. And it has not been that long. And so the problem has been that when you look back on your work, it's very difficult to try to figure out where you made enemies, or where you made enemies because you were just trying to be heard. And I don't know if that makes sense to you, but a lot of times where there was conflict, it was only conflict because, hello, we're right here. We're as funny, we're as talented, we're as, and for me, the allies part comes in that I always had thought, I'm not going to do to them what they did to us. Now, here's what I mean by that. In all my shows, interesting that I had Latino comedy shows that traveled the university circuit, and many that had done very well as performed. You do that without making enemies, because then it seems kind of like, oh, this guy's trying to come in. Remember, my show was a mile from Zanies. Now, here's what I want you to know. It is very aggravating to see businesses or venues being built, and when they build these venues, I was telling somebody this story when I first got here because it happened today. I walked by a venue that I know for a fact because I was at the meetings that got city funding and tax dollars to build that venue on the idea that programming would reflect the city. I walked by your venue today. Your November calendar is in the window, and there is one black person, one Latina, one woman. That's not the city I live in. That's not my block. Is it your block? So how do we knock on that door and say this isn't right without them saying, oh, there's the troublemaker again, right? So it's building relationships with those that are taking a moment, those that want to take a moment to listen and to help, without there being, here he comes again. So,
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you. That feels like a good place for me to pick up. So as a woman, obviously, you know, I experience my fair share of issues there, but also as a white person and a white woman, there's plenty of work to do as an ally, and so just to directly relate to your story you just shared, I think that's on white people to be the people who are being the problem, because it's safer for us to do so, period. And also, you know, that's the real chance to not be performative and actually do the actual thing you said you were going to do on your Instagram stories. But, you know, and so I will say a story about, you know, learning how to be a better ally. I think the George Floyd fallout and everything that followed. As a white woman, I myself, and I know I saw it in my communities too, was how can we show up for Black people? And the intention was there for sure, but everything I've learned has been from Black women, for sure. But what I learned was it's not on Black women to educate white people and white women, and there's a learning curve that I think us as white people kind of need to be comfortable with, which is, A, it's not on people of color to educate, and B, the experience is not monolithic, and where I'm seeing it right now is, without getting political post-election, we're kind of seeing a similar performance. And what I've observed from Black women who are willing to share is clean your own street. Don't other yourself as a white person and say, oh, I'm so sorry, you know, for other people. I'm not the problem. That's the point. And so it's on us to call in our people and have those conversations on behalf of the communities that we want to build and the people of color who we want to feel safe. I'm a firm believer as a white woman that I don't call myself an ally because I think that's something that you know, you don't get to call yourself. People either feel safe with you or they don't, and that's kind of your answer. But that's kind of what I've learned along the way, and I'm, you know, continuing to learn every day.
Okay, you guys are dropping jewels. Call in and call out. Okay, and Lady D.
About how to be a better ally? Same question, okay. So I think that when you try to be an ally, you are probably doing it wrong. I think that your personal life should reflect your professional life. So if in your job they are saying, oh, DEI is important and we have to do these things, but then you go home to your life and there's no color in your life, or no diversity, or no intersections in your life, then you can't have the wherewithal to be that way just because you go to work and open that door at 9 a.m. Your personal life should reflect that as well, because the more time you spend with others, the less you'll run into those sort of, you know, kind of gaffes when you go to work by saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. You've already shown up for people in your life in the ways that matter. You have knowledge, you have empathy, you've had dialogue, you've taken action to show that you know and understand what people are experiencing. And it's not something you turn on from 9 to 5 because there was a strategic planning meeting that said you had to do it. So if your personal life can reflect it, then you'll be so much better off, you know, in your professional life. So it's just a way of living. It's a way of being. And when you take that into consideration, think about your closest friends. How many of them look just like you? Think about it and take action to change that. Open up your doors, let people into your life, get to know people, build those relationships. It's just friendships, you know?
Like Rihanna said, pull up.
Right, pull up.
But
I always wanted to say that. Hey, pull up.
But Lily, I love what you said. Like, you don't consider yourself to be an ally because that's for someone else to give you that, you know, that safe kind of invitation to say that. And Lady D, I also love what you said, that if you think you're an ally, you're probably doing it wrong. Yeah, all of you all had a bunch of gems. And I just want to read what microaggression means, because we talk a lot about microaggression, and we just want to be clear that everyone has the same definition. So that's a statement, action, or incident regarding as an instance of indirect, subtle, or intentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group, such as a racial or ethnic minority. So when people are feeling like there's microaggressions, it's usually a racial or ethnic group or someone who is a minority group or, you know, a marginalized group. So I also just wanted to ask a question. If you could share a story where you experienced a microaggression and how you handled it. Lily, you want to try? You want to start with that?
So, yeah, I know on
Okay.
our call, I was like, I'm happy to answer. You know, as a woman, I've experienced it, not obviously tied to race. And I feel like it's a lighter story to share instead of asking a person of color to like kind of
Still a
bear
minority
it all.
group, so please share.
Okay, but so this specific example, I was joining a call with a client in my team, a virtual call, and the client, you know, head of something, joined the call and started introducing his team members and included me and introduced me as his intern. This was not that long ago. And it was pretty uncomfortable because I, you know, was the senior producer on the project that you were paying me to do. But, you know,
Wow.
my boss at the time, I think this is a great example of like being in a position to like say something and handle it well. Granted, he had to. But, you know, he took the burden off of me and stepped in and said, this is actually Lily, she's with us. She's our senior producer.
Crazy.
Yeah, and yeah.
That's
So-
crazy. Wow. Yeah, he just made you an intern. You just magically became an intern. Wow. Okay. Mikey, you want to try that question?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that it's, I mean, it's happened, it's happened a lot over my lifetime, but I'm just not, so I have an answer to a lot of this, and that's just that I just have respect for people. And I have respect for, I don't know. So I grew up at 3406 Halsted, North Halsted. When 3406 North Halsted, Wrigley Field was everybody. It is not what it is today. It was definitely Latino, definitely white, definitely African American, definitely Japanese, definitely gay. It was everybody. So it's very difficult for me. We were exposed to this melting pot in this community, and so I learned to hear those things, but I also learned that they were not okay, and I also learned to put a stop to it at that moment. And there are still times, you know, now when I'm dealing with, for example, in a contract with a venue or a contract with a booker, where they may throw in, hey, are they gonna, you think we, you know, we're looking for a show where they, you know, we want them to be Latino. I mean, but really Latino. And I'm like, you know, but you know, we want to make sure that they touch on the Latino thing. And I'm like, how do we touch on the Latino thing exactly, right? I've been trying to figure that out, you know? There's a great story, you know, of the guy that, you know, the comedian, Frank Lucero, who goes to an audition. And they, you know, we want you to be more Mexican. You got to be just a little bit more Mexican. And if you see Frank Lucero, he looks like he is from, he looks like he is from the most Mexico, Huatulco beach. I want you to be more Mexican. This requires you to be more Mexican. Frank sits down, and the guy tells him, hey, I don't know if they told you, but this pays $10,000. And Frank Lucero says, well, why didn't you say so? Allá en el rancho grande, allá donde vivía. But that was his way of saying, stick your microaggression up your ass. So what happens if we just respect each other, you know? It's a true story. And that brother went on to become the Skittles king. If you've ever seen a Skittles commercial, there's Frank Lucero. And, you know, whenever I see a Skittles commercial, I see a whole different commercial, okay?
Wow. So just, you know, getting to know people, respecting people.
Yeah.
You have a line on your right there, and I don't think you are reading it. A conversation on inclusivity in the music industry. You're not covering that subject, and I want to hear about that subject.
We're getting there, ma'am. We have a lot more questioning to do, so if you could be patient, we'll get there. Just be patient. And I was very rude, actually. You finished? Okay, so don't be rude. We're going to get to that subject, and actually we started with that subject, and we're going to get back to that subject. But all of these people are from different parts of the entertainment. So we're talking about all aspects. Okay? Is that all right with you?
Not especially, no.
No?
I'm here to listen to your viewpoint on that title.
Well, ma'am, if you just be patient, we'll get to there. We're actually having a conversation around all of that. Okay.
Guys, there's a lot of people who came to the room because they wanted to hear what these folks are talking about. So if we could please not ask questions, there will be a time for that at the end. But for right now, please respect the people on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So, Lady D, do you want to finish that question up?
Microaggressions?
Yeah, microaggressions. That are macroaggressions. Let's get into it. In the music industry, please.
Well, there are always some microaggressions. People who take privilege and use it without thought or forethought. I think that being a woman in a male-dominated field, sometimes there are assumptions made. And to your point, Lily, that people just assume that you're something else than what you came to do, right? So it can be somebody who is just a security guard, and they might say, do you know what you're doing? That's a microaggression.
Sure.
Do you know what you're doing? And so, you know, there's sometimes this sense that you have to prove people wrong about you, that you have something to prove. You don't have anything to prove. This industry is rough, it's tough, as you see. People kind of ride roughshod all over you sometimes. And what you can't do is let someone take you out of your space, knock you off of your square. You have to know your value, you have to know your worth, and you definitely have to take up space. Don't let anyone shrink you. In this music industry, you have to develop a thick skin. And you also have to develop your skill set so that you can be undeniable. Nobody can tell you otherwise. That's it.
So, Lady D, while we're here, and I think this is the perfect time to to segue into this, how can or should you talk to someone who has done or said something to you that's offensive? Like, how do you deal with people who are offensive to you, and in a way that I think sometimes it's purposeful, sometimes it may be accidental, but how do you deal with that?
I think the best way to deal with it is to understand yourself. So understanding your boundaries and what you will accept or won't accept. Some things are tolerable, some things are not. You don't have to make a war out of everything that occurs to you. I think that, or occurs, around you, or, and you do have to establish your boundaries, though,
Exactly.
when the line is crossed. Now, some people will get up to that line a lot, and then they will not cross it. Sometimes it is about, setting a precedent, right? So some people know just when to pull back, but it's still egregious in some ways, and you can tell if it's purposeful. They're just trying to get under your skin. Sometimes it feels like a pinch, and sometimes it feels like a punch. And you got to know when to fight back. But I think establishing your boundaries is, a personal thing. Like I can't tell you what your line is. Only you know what's acceptable to you. But like you said, Mikey, it is about respect. So if you wouldn't treat someone a certain way or say a certain thing, or, maybe that is your boundary. And I think for me, it's always been about being direct. I think communication is very easy if you just say the thing. I think it's very basically, yes, just saying, that felt like this to me, and I just want to make you aware of it. It's sometimes about being mindful and showing people how to be mindful to you. So there's that saying, right? People will treat you the way that you let them. And so if you don't want to be treated a certain way, you just have to say it. You just have to say, hey, that didn't feel good. And for me, I would rather that you said it this way, or I would rather that you didn't say it like that, or didn't say that, or, I will do the same for you, right? So I kind of like to offer that up, like, well, I didn't like that, but what I would say is, in the future, going forward, if you could do it like this, that would be much better for me, and that would keep our communication clear. That would keep us in the same, realm, because you probably wouldn't like me any other way. But I would, I kind of throw a little thing in there just to remind them, like, it could be different. I'm being nice. I'm being the opposite of a microaggression. I'm actually not being passive aggressive. I'm actually telling you, and I'm communicating. I'm taking the time to do that. So respect that and respect me, and we'll get along great. I think you just have to be direct. You have to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, Mike, can you share a story where you made a mistake while speaking and how you handled it? When you realized you made the mistake, how did you handle that mistake?
Yeah, you just described my whole life.
Mine too.
I think I made a mistake a minute ago by singing. I'm not going to sing anymore. But that was inclusive of music, my singing.
Sure. Very important.
And see, I just got in trouble again, right? But yeah, it's very difficult. The thing I tell my kids all the time is what I've learned about all my mistakes, I've learned from my mistakes, because good people came to me, pull me to the side and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't have said that. Maybe you should have gone this way. Did you know this? And so it's very difficult. I speak a lot, and I do a lot of public speaking at schools and a lot of public speaking in different scenarios. I've never gone in any place as the authority on anything. I've never gone into a place feeling superior, either on the subject matter or superior to the room or superior to the neighborhood or anything. So there have been times when I have put my foot in my mouth. But then I think that the best part about that is I cannot leave that room, without making it right. I think that that's really the important part. Sometimes, listen, I will tell you that the beauty of people is that the good people, they'll tell you, and they're going, and they'll, hey, this was not, this is, like you just said, this is something that kind of bothered me. Yo, what part? Never thought about that. I'm really, really sorry. And not only really sorry for the moment, but to make sure that you don't repeat that. And so, yeah.
And if you have genuine relationship with those people, then you will want to do better for them.
Yeah. And those are the best people. To understand that hopefully the same way I said in the beginning, respect. And so hopefully the way that, I recently, and look, I just want to tell you that when we started using pronouns more actively in the workplace, there was nobody more confused than me. Really. And I really wasn't sure what I was doing. And so the very first time it happened where somebody called it out to me, I said, hey, I'm 58. You're 28. No excuses. Help me out. Talk to me. What am I supposed to be saying? Because they were, and I was completely lost. But again, luckily, the love of people. Show you what's happening here.
Thank you for your response. So, Lady D, this one is for you. So how do you keep yourself honest and open for conversations about microaggressions you may have experienced specifically in the music industry? Specifically in the music industry,
yeah. Sometimes I'm booking shows. Sometimes I'm, the person that is throwing an event. So like a promoter, acting as a promoter and an artist all together. In those specific cases, you have to do a lot of negotiating. This is where your relationships come into play, because people will share things with you that sometimes venues don't know that you have privy to that sort of information. And when you sometimes hear what some artists are being paid and what some artists are being offered, you can sort of see sometimes that there are trends where at a local venue and the music director, we had agreed to 4 shows. The 3 shows were ramping up. The last show had done extremely well, and we were supposed to get a big commission. They literally looked at me and said, we didn't have enough ticket sales. I don't think that's a microaggression. I think that's an aggression. You're playing with my money. I think that was a conversation that was hard to have because there was something on the line, right? I didn't want to lose the relationship with the venue because it's an important venue. It's someplace that everybody plays, and you want to keep that relationship. In that situation, I took one on the chin. I was just like, okay. Noted. And I didn't have to do anything. That person ended up losing their job. But later, maybe 10 years later, that person said to me, they made me do it. Ooh. Is that real? I don't know. But it doesn't matter because it's in the rearview mirror. Sometimes like I said, you have to fight that fight. Sometimes you have to know when to retreat. I still have an amazing relationship with this venue, and I charge them top dollar. So
works out in the end. Yes. Okay, so Mike, how do we talk about gender politics without offending genders? And you just kind of alluded to that a little bit in your previous comment, but when is it appropriate to say we need a woman in the room or we need someone from the Latin community? When is it appropriate to kind of draw those lines?
When is it appropriate to say that we need a woman in the room or need a Latino in the room? I don't know. that I know the answer to that, because I don't know that I work in that environment. I work in an environment of talent and skill set. And I don't know, luckily, I mean, I'm lucky to be able to say that I've been surrounded by folks who have been talented, and so my first gay show in Chicago was not a gay show. I went to San Francisco, I saw Sandra Valls on stage, I said, this woman is simply amazing. I brought her to Chicago, we do a show, and then they say, we're sold out, go to the front door, there's 300 people out there, waiting to get in? No, you better go to the front door. And it was an organization of protesters protesting the fact that I had taken this sports venue in Lincoln Park and placed a well-known gay comedian in the room, and it turned out to be this big deal. Having to prove to the city of Chicago that I never hired this person because they were gay was almost like the craziest thing ever. That's not the way the conversation went. And to this day, it's not the way the conversation goes. We need a sound guy. We need a sound woman. We need a sound person. We need, I don't know that I'm specifically looking for a Mexicana or a man or a woman. So this is a conversation about inclusivity, but I want to say that maybe a third of this room works in another environment that's not the music industry. Is that safe to say? Where this applies. It's a conversation about inclusivity, because what happened in this room earlier, I, as a Latino man, cannot do in every room in this city. I can't disrupt an event and voice my opinion that way. So I wanted to throw that in there only because here's why. I don't want somebody to say, although it may happen, although it's happened, I don't want somebody to say, well, we needed a Latino, so here he is. I don't want that conversation. I don't let comedians or producers or anybody on my team have that conversation. That to me doesn't feel right. So.
Lily, you want to add something?
Yeah, if I can veg you back off of that. I love that you've put me onto that phrase. I agree, it's about talent, and I think that also ties into what you said earlier about this reflecting what your real life looks like. The fact is there are spaces that are just white, and there are meetings that are just white. Jeannie, I know we've talked about this right in the past. It's like, if there's not a woman in the room, nobody's bringing up a woman. And the same is true for people of color, but I think, you know, if you're looking around the room and you're like, this is not really diverse, I need some people of color in here, I need some women in here. I think the first question is this space safe enough? Like, would I feel comfortable calling my friend and bringing them in here? And if not, let's address that first. Build it and they'll come, but like, they're not here for a reason, right? And it's not because they don't want to be here. So what are we doing that's excluding them in the first place, is what I would say.
I completely hear both your perspectives, and I think it's really interesting, because I think about, like, say, just as an aside, Nina Simone, there was a movie about her, and the conversation was, okay, but there's not a black woman playing Nina Simone. And so these are the kind of things that, when is it okay to say, that's a little sketchy? Or is it just, oh, well, she's a great performer? So I just wanted to add our last question. How can we all work together to make sure unrepresented voices are being heard? And what does that look like in the real world with deadlines, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of alluded to that just now a little bit, but yeah, the deadlines really gets me, because anybody can meet deadlines. Yeah. Like, you're either good with time management or you're not. And again, back to talent, the expectation is that you're great at this, right? Like, that's why anybody's giving anybody a chance. Right. But again, I just think it comes down to, like, do we have the team and the personalities and the right people to support these endeavors? If I know I'm bringing somebody into a project and I know that there's going to be pushback from the brand just because they like working with this one particular person, then that's on me to set expectations with my client and also to protect the person that I'm bringing in so that they have a good experience and that I'm setting them up for success for their own, you know, well-being, but also because I still want to do a good job. Like, we're all here to do good work. Every project has hurdles, and they're not all tied right to diversity and inclusion, but some of them are, some of them probably should be, and like there is a delicacy to it. But I just reflecting real life and like
Well,
respect.
Can I add to that? 'Cause I think diversity and inclusion and equity benefits everyone. It's not just for people of color, black people, women. It actually includes everyone. It makes sure that all people get seen and viewed, and there's nothing wrong with intentionality behind your choices and behind your picks. So if you have, for example, there's a festival in the UK called Lost Village. They actually say, okay, we have 100 slots for, you know, this entire festival. We are going to fill 50 of them, and we're going to leave the other 50 and make sure that we intentionally place women in these slots. It may be unheard of, and it may take a little bit more thought and work and attention, but they are making sure that they have built in, because if you just think about who you hang out with, oh, I like them, and you probably all have the same taste, and you think about those people, and those slots get filled up pretty quickly. Then the flyer comes out and everybody goes, 3 women, what? Because they just aren't thinking about it. They're thinking about their bros and their friends and who they hang out with and who they like and who they saw that, you know, what they did and they look dope or whatever. And so they're not really making necessarily the conscious choice to not put women in those slots, but it's a very unconscious choice. So if you put some intention behind it, then you can open up space for people who you're not normally thinking about hanging out with. And yes, and it will require you to do a little more research, a little more legwork to make sure that, oh yeah, you know what, they're actually doing, you know, great things. It's gonna actually open up your headspace to new things and to, you know, being a little more knowledgeable about folks. So I just say, you know, intentionality is good, right? That's not performative, I don't think. I think that that's creating space where you normally wouldn't have any.
I think that's great. Well, Mikey, you want to add to that?
I just, well, before I forget, first of all, give yourselves a big round of applause, seriously. Give us a big round of applause. And I want to just tell you that thank you to the Recording Academy. You know, 24 years ago, the very first Latin Grammys, and I was at the very first Latin Grammy and watching it every single year, and then watching my people on stage, our music on stage on an English channel, on a Spanish channel, and then being covered the way that it was covered, you know, shows absolutely that the Recording Academy at least had its eyes open 24, 25 years ago, and that understood that there were, that this was a need for the community to include us in all aspects of the awards process, and that kind of recognition was important. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. I also just want to say that let this be a clarion call that we should all kind of explore different, everything different. Like, let's not just keep doing the same thing. Let's not keep surrounding ourselves in the same environments, because I think when you venture out to go into different spaces, then you open up your mind, you open up your world, you open up your heart, and before you know it, you have different experiences, and you have a deeper understanding and respect for other people and other cultures. So Chicago is so diverse, so international. You know, we have invisible lines that divide communities. But go into another community and just try and explore. I think that will open up our world so much. I just want to also say that this is a safe space for people to speak their minds. We know we will hope that people can do it respectfully, but we want to hear from everyone. And also that there is no judgment, and I'd like to really introduce that we are all here to uplift one another. So as we go forward in this next series of years and time, let's just be respectful of one another. I think that goes so far. Just, you know, treat people like you want to be treated. I want to thank you all for being on the panel today. I would also like to welcome my fellow chapter member and collaborator who's going to go through a Q&A. Add two in the building.
Hey. What's up, y'all? Indeed. If you feel good, make some noise. All right. If you're feeling cool, say cool.
Cool.
If you're all right, say all right.
All right.
There we go. So we about to have a Q&A session, but it's not quite a Q&A session, all right? We said we're gonna do something different. So this is almost like Q and S. It's like questions and solutions, all right? So we're opening up the floor. So if you have a question, let me know. But also you might say, you know what, I got a solution to something that's going on too, because not only are these people experts, but y'all are experts too. Y'all have navigated these situations. Y'all have lived life. I don't see any babies in this room. So with that being said, I think a lot of people bring in a wealth of knowledge and information. So if that's cool, say cool.
Cool.
And I also want you to look at your neighbor. Just lock eyes with one person. All right, just look at somebody. All right, y'all got your person? Y'all got your person? All right, now that you have your person, I want you to say, you deserve to be here.
To be here.
You are
needed.
Needed. There you go. All right, needed. Yes, you.
Yes, you.
Yes, you.
Yes, you.
Absolutely you.
Absolutely you.
You deserve
You deserve
to be here.
to be here.
All right, with that being said, y'all give yourselves a round of applause real quick. Now, if you have a question, can you raise your hand? And if you got a solution, raise your hand too. All right, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to come over here first. All right, here we go.
Thank you so much. I don't often get to these things, and I am an emerging mother, is what I'm saying to people. Thank you. It's been a rough year, and I'm just now starting to get to know my Grammy friends. I'm Amanda, by the way, came from Minnesota. And I enjoy this conversation a lot, and I deal with a lot of the frustrations regarding more of the booking and the venue side, because I'm an artist and I see just not enough justice and things changing fast enough that I want to make a difference. But I'm wondering if the Grammys, if this is kind of a solution/idea, is there any way that they could create a notoriety or an award for, you know, look at all the people that work behind the scenes, these venues, these agents, you know, they're trying to make change, they're trying to bring different perspectives. If you have different perspectives, you learn more, you grow, right? Different performers. Is there a way to do that in the venue sense, where they can get an award or something, a partnership like from Women in Music or something to just say, look at what you did. You did change some stuff.
I can answer for Women in Music. It's not so much an award, but globally we've just put out, it's called a Safer Spaces directory, and it's, I want to say, at least a 40-page document that lists a bunch of organizations and other communities that, you know, focus on different industries, like subsectors of the music industry. Some, I think, are for female touring musicians. You know, that entire world where I think it's a great place to start meeting people who are on the same journey as you, or maybe who have been there before and can help kind of lift up. But I think what's great about it is that it's rooted in this, very meaningful, intentional purpose of like, hey, you're good here. You can show up, you can ask questions. Everybody here has done the work and is doing the work, and it's one of those good spaces. That would be my Women in Music vote.
And on behalf of the Academy, I can say, while the Grammy Awards itself is its own behemoth, I'm loud. Well, the award itself and the Grammy Awards and the awards are their own thing that are really in the creative space. We work really closely with venues and with professional members who are supporters of the creative space. And in particular, you mentioned you came in from Minnesota. We're actually working on a bill in Minnesota. We're working with NEVA to ensure that all of the venues in Minnesota will be accessible for artists. So green room accessibility spaces. And that's because someone brought it to our attention, and then our advocacy work is all year round, and I'd encourage you to poke into that a little bit, and I'd love to talk to you about working with us in the spring.
All right, we have another question over here, or is it a solution? Which one you got?
I don't know. I don't know. My name is Faylita Hicks, and I joined the Academy in Texas in 2021. I'm a spoken word artist, which means I was a part of the crew that was kind of helping bring it into the Grammys. Very excited to be a part of that process. But the most difficult part, as a Black non-binary femme person, as a queer person, as someone working in a category, in a space that's still new, that even though people have a concept of it, they're not really sure how to include it. When it comes to shows, when it comes to booking, trying to book myself outside of colleges and universities is one of the most difficult things I have ever done. Trying to put a number on my worth, trying to put a number on my experience, trying to put a number on all that has been extremely difficult. I'm very interested in learning more about what do you think is the next best route for people working in emerging categories. You said emerging mothers, but in all emerging categories, right? Because it's not just spoken word. We know that there are alternative musics that are coming up, alternative genres that are happening. I'm just very interested in what the next step might look like, because when we talk about diversity and inclusion, it's gonna have to be also people who are queer. We're gonna need that arm. We're gonna need an arm for people working in categories that aren't traditionally booked regularly at venues. And how do we find resources? Because I'm asking questions. Hello, everyone. I just moved here 2.5 years ago. My first chapter meeting. I am very excited and very interested in learning. Thank you.
I do a little spoken word, not really spoken word, poetry, and I collaborate with producers, one of which is in the corner here, Andrew Email, also known as Change Requests, but I'm like an armchair producer, right? Like I can tell you what I want and what I like, and so I either have to book studio time or collaborate with friends and other people that I respect. I would say, find collaborators that you can, lend your talents to. I know people are always sending me stuff, and I don't really have time to do a lot of stuff. You and I should connect, and I can be a referral to, those folks who I don't have time to work with. But also, I tell DJs this a lot, young DJs, they often ask, how can I be a part of everything? And to which I, sadly repeat a Field of Dreams line, but build it and they will come. But literally, people take you more seriously when you create your own community. The community that you create, it's untouchable, but once people see it, they want to touch it. And so you only become desirable by by what you've created around you that becomes desirable, right? So your appeal is you solo, that's probably not enough. You surrounded by folks, that's a lot. So people are always going to be interested in that type of energy if you're bringing something to it. So I would look around your community, your neighborhood, see where the local business that needs help, the little coffee shop or the little jewelry store or whatever you can do to go in and say, hey, you don't look like you have a lot of people. Maybe I could promote a show or a poetry reading, or I came out with a little zine, or, do something that fuels your creativity, but also invites others to take part in that. And once you have that, there's so many businesses that need people to come into them. And so you can set up something, right? So it's like, this is gonna be a poetry reading or a spoken word slam or an open mic, invite other people to come. So if you build it, people will respect you after that. Your worth will raise because your community will raise you up as well. It is about establishing your own stuff. Like when I first came in, nobody pulled me up. Nobody pulled me up. I had to, I had people around me that we worked together to kind of, the rising tide raises all boats. So you do it like that way.
And I want to add, as a poet, as a singer, when the poetry community is so vast in Chicago, it's literally open mics happening all the time. And I would say find that community of people that resonate with you. And in that scene, you're going to find your people. You're going to be able to find people to help you to actually grow. Because what we're learning through the panel and just different experiences is that collaboration helps to lift you up. When you collaborate with people, as one person, it's going to be difficult to make that reach. But when you meet up with other people and you say, hey, let's try and do this together as a group, or maybe we should try and build this thing. Let's grow this community. Let's try and see who comes out. Let's call it out. And I think you'll realize that so many people are looking for what you are looking for. But it's just someone has to be courageous enough to step out there and say, this is me, this is what I'm doing. And I think after you do it, because it's the same thing, like nobody put me on as far as poetry. I had to go to poetry events all around the city until people started saying, okay, I like that poem you did. Maybe you can come over here and do this one. And then I was starting to move around. But it's just moving around the city. It's just finding your people. And if you keep on doing in the different communities that you feel like resonate with you, I know you'll find your people in no time. Yeah.
All right, we have, never mind. We say we're done? Oh, okay, all right. I guess I've been told that we're done. All right, yes. Everybody make some noise for yourselves.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you
All
for
right.
coming and spending the time with us.
Thank you. And I think this is a beautiful place to conclude our discussion today. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to Mike O., Lily, and Darlene for lending your voices to this conversation. Thank you for all of you for your questions. I know some of you still have questions, and please feel free to mingle later and just ask somebody if you feel like, they have the answer to your question. We hope everyone here is able to leave feeling empowered in their industry and their artistry, and to become a part of the solution towards further inclusion in our industry. Thanks again to our event partners, Women in Music and Lincoln Park Room. Thank you for this beautiful room. Clap it up for the Lincoln Park Room. I want to acknowledge and thank all those who tuned in our live stream. Thank you for being there live stream. And from the Midwest and all across the country, we thank you so much for your support. Thank you for being with us tonight. And we really appreciate you. So stay tuned to your email for more information about our next events. Thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Let's thank our panelists again for their wonderful responses. All right, and with that, I'd like to pass the torch to the chair of our Dream Committee. You guys can all step off the stage. Thank you so much. We'd like to pass the torch to the chair of our Dream Committee, which is Ms. Jeannie Tanner, who is going to send us off with an incredible performance. Let's clap it up for Jeannie. Keep it up, keep it up. It should be on.
Not to be cliche, but teamwork makes the dream work. So we're going to ask some of the folks from the committee to come up. We got a little song that we did. This song I actually wrote about 20 years ago. Mike Okendo used to be on my board when I ran a nonprofit.
What?
And it was just a chorus And I had all the students writing verses, and so when we needed something for tonight, I thought, let's just refurbish it, let's just bring it out. And this is an original piece. We had everybody on the committee